The Isaiah Factor Uncensored starts right now.
And welcome to this special edition of The Factor Uncensored. We're at Wander Stay Boutique Hotel in Edo, where they are celebrating their second anniversary, and we will be talking to the owner a little bit later in the program. But first, we're focusing on immigration. This weekend, you saw protests all around the country, the so-called No Kings protests. Now, as a result of the actions of the Trump administration, there have been aggressive immigration raids around this country, and that has allowed the door to be open to police impersonators. We talked to Greg Dupree in Dallas about it. Let's take a look. And joining us on The Factor Uncensored tonight, we have with us Greg Dupree with TLAC Now, former law enforcement officer and security expert. Greg, what we have seen as a result of these ICE raids and crackdowns around the country, we have seen many people who have pretended to be ICE agents, federal agents, and they've taken advantage of people who are out there, imposters, those impersonating officers. So first of all, why are we seeing this?
That's because you have individuals out there who have always been unhappy with the presence of illegal immigrants in this country. And now they're seeing the opportunity to act on their hatred, their dislike, distrust, and using that as any type of excuse to go after these people and turn them into the authorities. They might see it as I'm assisting the authorities in this case, but they're obviously violating these people's rights because they're not authorized to act in that capacity.
And we've actually seen one man who he was caught on video stopping some individuals here in the United States, and he ended up being arrested for impersonating an officer. Just how bad is the problem out there right now as a result of what we're seeing from the Trump administration?
It's not to the point where you can say it's an epidemic, but it is a growing problem. And anytime you have people impersonating law enforcement officers, it's obvious concern. If this is something that we don't get a handle on soon enough, it's going to become a major problem. It's going to continue to grow because you're going to have this increasing animosity and I'll say outright hatred toward illegal immigrants, and you're going to see more and more people start to act on it.
And what we've also seen, individuals who are looking to make money just to take advantage of those who may be perceived as being illegal in this company in order to scam them out of money as well.
Exactly. And the thing is, no law enforcement officer or agent is going to be asking you for money. That should be one of the first red flags you see. But, they're playing on these people's fears and they figure, hey, if I pay this guy, he'll leave me alone. And what you're doing is you're paying someone who's not a law enforcement officer and you're losing your money.
And so what advice would you have for individuals out there who may find themselves taken advantage of anyway? If someone approaches you saying that they're a law enforcement officer, that they're an agent of ICE, the federal government, what should be one of the first things that you do as an individual who's looking to protect themselves?
Exactly. The first thing, as I said, if they ask for money, that's a red flag right there. But the first thing you would really want to do is see if this person is acting alone. It'd be very rare, like I said, very extremely unusual for an ICE agent to be acting alone. They're going to have other ICE agents with them. Mm-hmm. You want to check their credentials.
Good point.
Yeah, you want to check. Look at the badge. You can go online and see what an ICE badge actually looks like, and so you can check their badge to see what their badge says by just giving it a glance. Also, if they're threatening to arrest you, they should have an administrative warrant that says they are authorized to arrest this person, or that they have suspicion that you're acting that you're in this country illegally. These are the things you have to know your rights. You should talk to an immigration attorney and say, what are the things that these ICE agents have to present if I'm contacted by them and they can arrest me? They cannot come in your house generally without a judicial warrant, because there are two types of warrants: the administrative warrant to seize a person and the judicial warrant to enter your private business or residence. So if anytime they're threatening to do these things, just ask them. Now, the bad thing is, if you're in this country illegally, you're already at a disadvantage. Mm-hmm. So you are in a position that you might you might have a hard time getting any type of cooperation out of an ICE agent because they already know you're in this country illegally, and it'll be very hard for you to distinguish between an actual ICE agent and an imposter. But just pay attention to the red flags, like I said, particularly if they're asking you for money, if they have phony credentials. ICE agents are not the type of people that are just going to run roughshod over your rights. As I said, if they have an administrative warrant, they should be glad to show it to you, as well as same as a judicial warrant. So you just be leery of these things that law enforcement officers normally don't do.
And we'll be back with more Factor Uncensored when we continue this conversation about immigration. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back to the Factor Uncensored. We're continuing our conversation about immigration. What we have seen around the country in many raids, many times, ICE agents are wearing masks, and that has left a lot of immigrants nervous. But what happens if someone who is a police impersonator, a federal agent impersonator wearing a mask approach you? We get back to Greg Dupree.
And I would assume as a result of those who may be in this country illegally or individuals who have family members or relatives who may be in this country illegally, it may be that this case or this type of case is underreported because people don't want to go to law enforcement, get into trouble thinking they would be ultimately deported themselves, even though they're the victims of a potential crime.
That's why you need to talk to an attorney, because an immigration attorney can take on that role for you and report these type of incidents going on in certain particular neighborhoods or in parts of the city. So, there are avenues, and there are advocate groups out there as well that can do the same thing. If you're going to allow yourself to continue to be taken advantage of and preyed upon by these type of individuals, it's not going to stop. It's only going to get worse. And as you said before, if they're out there scamming people and these guys are fairly successful at doing this, that problem is going to grow as well.
And one of those organizations here in Houston that's helping immigrants who may find it a tough time navigating through the system is FIEL, and they're operated and run by Cesar Espinosa, who's a regular guest here on the Factor Uncensored. So if you're out there and you need that kind of guidance, reach out to FIEL, FIEL. It's the acronym, and check with them for any guidance. Also, really quick before we wrap up here, we have seen as a result of these ICE raids, there may be some individuals who are federal agents who work undercover, but many of them have gone out with masks on. Does that make it that much more difficult on the public if they see someone coming with mask on or their face covering, the ski mask? Does that make it difficult on the public to know who to trust at this time?
Well, yes, it's going to make it difficult for the public also, because it seems very suspicious. But even so, if an ICE agent is working undercover, when they're about to move on you or move on individuals, they're still going to have their credentials. They're just not going to come up as like a person with just a mask on in no form of identification. So, and they don't do that just so you can identify. They do it for their own safety as well. So they're going to be carrying credentials. You might be suspicious of it, but as I said, pay attention to the things that and look for things that legitimate law enforcement officers should be carrying. And as I said before, if it's one person by themselves, that's a definite red flag. Because as I said, for safety reasons alone, ICE agents aren't out there traveling alone.
And that's an important point you make there. I didn't think about that, but if they're by themselves, you can definitely consider that a red flag. Like you said, ICE agents will have backup. That's just what law enforcement, federal agents, local police, they all do. There's backup, especially if they're going to serve a warrant. Greg Dupree, TLAC now, based in Dallas, Texas. We want to thank you for joining us and your valuable advice here on the Factor Uncensored. Thank you, sir.